Okay, FLI Fitness Foundations, we are talking about the push-up. There are a plethora of ways that you can do a push-up. Whether you are on the ground or whether you are elevated, the principles remain the same. So let's talk through those. Okay, I'm gonna come down on the ground, but before I actually get into my plank position, we're thinking about the contact of our hands on the ground. Particularly the pointer finger knuckle needs to stay glued down. So I'm going to come down into my plank position and I'm going to get my body in a nice strong plank. My tailbone's tucked ever so slightly. My pointer finger knuckles are in the ground. I'm going to face you just for a second. When I get set up for my push-up, I want to think about where my elbow pit is in space. If I'm like this, sending my elbows out, right, my elbow pit is actually turning internally, so it's a little internally rotated. That is a no-no in terms of shoulder health and stability and the creation of force. So what we want to do is we want to have that good contact between all of our knuckles on the ground. We also want to start to rotate that elbow pit to face forward. That's going to help stabilize the shoulders. So I'm winding up through my shoulders. I'm going to shift forward ever so slightly, and I'll show you why in just a second. So I'm in my strong plank. I've got my grounding through my hands. My shoulders are set. I'm going to shift forward, and then I'm going to come down into my push-up and press back up. Now, why is it important for me to shift forward? That is because we're talking about line of force. So let me get the bottom of my push-up here so you can see this. I shift forward and I come down into my push-up. Pay attention to where my elbow and wrists are. Imagine if my wrist was a nail and my elbow was a hammer, right? That line of force is so much greater there than it is here. Imagine that line of force versus this. So you want to think about shifting ever so slightly forward as you come down and up. Another thing I'll say is at the top of your push-up, you are pushing away from the ground, okay? We don't want to stay sunk in our shoulders and let our shoulders come up. So push all the way out of the ground. Feel nice and long through the neck. Feel really activated and lengthened through your back. So again, pointer finger knuckle on the ground, elbow pit forward, tailbone tucked, shift forward, come all the way down and up. Now, if you don't have push-ups yet, or if you're working on building the endurance and strength for the push-up, don't be afraid to do it on the ground and just use your knees to come back up. So what that would look like is, I do my push-up normal on the way down, nice and slow, my knees drop, I press back up, and then I come back into my next rep. Just using the knees to help me when needed. Again, you can do this push-up completely elevated, and the principles all apply. Wherever your hand is, creating a little bit of that torque, tension, and stability, and then shifting forward as you come down. One other thing I'll note is my elbows are pointing behind me, right? They're not pointing out to the sides, and they're not tucked completely into where they feel like they're pointing more towards my body. They're pointing out and behind me. I like to say at least an orange, maybe an orange-sized fruit between my elbow and my rib cage, right? So not here and definitely not here.